Hello everyone, I am Raven Ironwing and welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to spend some more time talking about depression. And I think a great way of visualizing what I was discussing about needs and mental wellness, a great way of visualizing that is Maslow's hierarchy of needs in the pyramid form you see here. So Maslow's hierarchy of needs explains our emotional and physical needs in a sort of food pyramid-like scheme, where the things we need the most are on the bottom, and if we don't have those things on the bottom, then the other needs really can't be met. So, let's start by looking at the bottom tier. So, the first thing we really need fulfilled, the first kinds of needs we need fulfilled are physiological needs: food, water, warmth, rest, shelter, those things that we need to survive. And then, next up we have safety needs, whether we are secure and safe, whether we have employment, whether we have an area where we can protect our belongings and our families. So we need to be safe. That is a real need. And can you feel safe? Can you be safe if you don't have food, water, warmth, rest, a place to shelter yourself from the storm or cold? No, you really can't. So you need your physiological needs met first before these safety needs can be met. And the same is true with the sense of belongingness and love, those social related needs that I was talking about in the last video. Whether we have intimate relationships or friends or family members we can depend on, we have those social needs. We are social creatures that have very real social needs. But can our social needs be met if we don't feel safe and if we don't have our physical and needs met, like food and water? Can we really meet those social needs? Not really. So it all depends on meeting these needs here. And then if our social needs aren't being met, can we really have esteem? Like, it's difficult to feel any sort of esteem, any sort of self-esteem when there's no one in your life that matters, or that you love, or that gives you some sort of feedback. Human beings we can't exist as islands. We can't just be alone and isolated and find that sense of fulfillment. I mean, I've been alone for a long time. I lived in the desert for over 4 years in almost complete isolation. Kind of on and off, though. So, initially, it was refreshing, and I learned a lot from that experience. But there comes a time when, if you're isolated for so long, it really has such a negative impact on your well-being emotionally. I think the movie Castaway is just a beautiful example of what can really happen to someone's mind when they're in isolation for that long. It's kind of, it's a movie, but I think it captures that idea that when you're isolated for so long, you basically invent friends. Like, he makes his volleyball into a friend. He names it Wilson because it's a Wilson volleyball. So yeah, we need that sense of belongingness and love. We need those needs met in order to really have that self-esteem, in order to really feel purpose. And the needs on the very top are those self-fulfillment needs. Feeling like you're achieving your potential, that sense and that self-fulfillment, that state of self-fulfillment. And this really has so much to do with depression. like I was saying, so many of us are depressed because these needs here aren't being met, or these needs aren't being met, or these needs aren't being met, or these needs aren't being met. If any of these needs on these layers are not being met, it can very easily lead to depression, and that doesn't mean that there's something broken about our brains. If these needs are not being met and we are depressed or suffering from anxiety or chronic stress, that is normal human behavior. Our brains should be telling us there's something wrong. So, I want to really drive home the point that depression is often, not always, but often a symptom of needs being met, needs not being met. So, reflecting on my own life, have I ever felt like all of these needs were met at any time in my life? The answer to that is no. And I believe that's a big part of the reason why I have struggled with depression since I was a little kid. And I think it really boils a lot down to these physiological needs. Healthcare goes in here. And if you're struggling with health issues and you can't get the proper healthcare that you need, then all of these other needs, it's so difficult, nearly impossible to meet them. I was raised in a reasonably poor family by first world American standards. And there were times when we couldn't afford to buy our own food. Fortunately, we always had a place to live. We often had a car breakdown and didn't have a car. Sometimes we didn't have flooring in our house. It's just the bare particle board. I remember sometimes they needed us to pay certain things for certain school trips or activities, and we didn't have the money. And our family struggled so much financially that I didn't even tell my mom about it. I never told her that we were supposed to pay different things at school, so I just didn't go to those activities. So, I mean, I know a lot of people have it harder off than I did, and I feel very grateful for my life. I don't want this to sound like it's any sort of sob story. I love my life, and I love the trials I went through. I love that I didn't have easy access to things, so I had to learn very creative ways to get what I needed. And I mean, I always go back to this example, but when I wanted to learn how to program computers, we couldn't afford a computer, so I went to a local business and dug computer parts out of the dumpster, and I built my first IBM-compatible computer that way. So poverty comes with limitations. Not having needs met comes with limitations, but sometimes when our needs aren't being met, we can find very creative ways to meet them, and that can really build character. So I really love who I am, and I wouldn't trade my life for anything else. So I don't want any of my viewers to think this is a sob story, because my life is not a sob story. I view my life as a success story. I don't think most people would see me as a success, because I'm not wealthy. I have been through long periods of unemployment due to health reasons. I have lost jobs. I've worked some pretty low-paying jobs. I worked at Walmart once, stocking shelves and cutting fabric for people, and working as a cashier as well. So, I mean, there are a lot of different things that I've had to do to get by. But why do I see myself as a success? Because with all the things stacked against me in my life, I've found ways to still see the purpose and meaning in it all and still love it. It might sound odd that I am chronically depressed and have been chronically depressed pretty much my entire life, but I love my life. But it's true. I do. So right now I have most of my physiological needs met. I've taken care of my medical issues. Fortunately, I was able to get help with that and get the care I needed. And now I'm working on, finding a safe place to live at my new job. Near my new job. So right now, even though, I've been alive for quite some time, not as young as a lot of my viewers seem to think that I am, but, oh man, these needs, I'm still working on these first 2 tiers right here. And one thing I used to do so much in the past, I made a video on this, but I took it down because I felt like it just seemed too, a bit cringy. Like, part of it almost seemed like one of those dating videos, where you talk about the kind of person you're looking for, and that was not at all my intention. But anyway, I made a video about how I used to try to seek belongingness and love and intimate relationships as a way of meeting these needs down here. And when you do stuff like that, when you seek, or also trying to meet these needs up here by finding these needs, when you seek validation from others and you get into relationships because you need that validation, or because you need to feel safe and secure, or because you need a place to live, it creates so many issues. And that is not a good way to solve issues like depression, anxiety, and stress, and insomnia, and all those things that are super common that people struggle with nowadays. So don't jump the gun. Do not try to meet these needs before making sure these things are checked off the list here. Or you're just going to be setting yourself up for a world of pain. And people might think, who am I to give advice? Well, I don't want anyone to think of this so much as me giving advice, but as me talking about how I'm working out my own issues, because I think this would help other people realize that they can work out their issues too. I find it's so helpful to see other people go through thought processes. And I think that my lifelong struggle with depression and talking about my current plan of combating depression by working on meeting my needs, I feel like sharing that might help others realize that, hey, I don't need to focus so much on what's wrong with my brain. I need to focus on what I can fix in my life to provide for my needs. Because, just having this one right here out of the way, having that one checked off, has helped me so much. I can sleep better at night now. And soon this one will be checked off. And soon this one will be checked off too. I have a plan for this one too. Moving into the city again. Won't be in isolation in the middle of nowhere anymore. And I'll be able to meet those social needs and I plan on doing a lot of different social activities and meeting new people, and I'm very excited about that. I am normally quite a social person, but because of different challenges in my life, I had lived a life of a very introverted person, and I'm looking forward to moving out of that introverted lifestyle and being more true to the extroverted social person that I naturally am. And I think that happens to a lot of us, where we get made fun of a lot as children, or bullied, or even as adults, or things just go horribly bad with relationships, and we just lose that self-confidence that we need in a social environment and become disconnected from that. And I think that the tendency is to think I'm an introvert, and a lot of people really are introverts, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I found there's something wrong with living the life of an introvert when you crave and desire that social experience. And that's something that's very important to me. It's part of why I made a YouTube channel in the first place. The main reason was to feel more confident about speaking, because I had suffered so much ridicule about the way that I spoke as a child. They forced me to go through speech therapy to get rid of my accent, forced me to try to speak like an American, and all the kids made fun of me. And it didn't stop there. I mean, there were so many reasons why they made fun of my voice. My voice, to this day, is kind of strange sounding, and people still make fun of it. It doesn't bother me nearly as much, because I have a lot more self-esteem, a lot more confidence now. And a big part of that is because I'm meeting these needs. So I have most of these needs met right now. Most of them. I'm just looking for, a better place to live. But overall, most of these needs are being met, and I have a plan for getting all of those needs met soon. And then once you meet these first 3 tiers of needs, the other needs are pretty easy to meet. I think it's interesting how the fact that the bottom of the pyramid is larger really also reflects how much more difficult it is to meet those needs. I think meeting our physical needs is the most difficult if we are struggling financially, unless we are born into a family that has a lot of wealth and that wants to share that wealth with us. So I think that as you go high up, these are actually easier to meet. I think. I've never actually been here before. I'm a very creative person, so I do a lot of creative activities, but a lot of that is actually a distraction from the fact that I haven't had these needs being met, and has distracted me from physical pain and from all the other things I've had to deal with. But I think I'm getting pretty close. And I want everyone out there that's struggling with depression and anxiety and any sort of mental illness or mental anguish or mental suffering, if you're dealing with that because your needs are not being met, I just want you to know that you're not alone. These are struggles that most people deal with at some point in their lives. And even a lot of people might say they've never been depressed, but I think a lot of people are actually lying to themselves. And it's just a very common thing, and I think we need to be open about talking about it, and open about the things that we can do to actually cope with depression and find a way to solve our depression by meeting those needs and by figuring out everything else we need to do in order to feel that sense of fulfillment, in order to feel like our lives have meaning and that we love living and find enjoyment in our lives and don't feel that that weight crushing us anymore. So I want to challenge you all to take some time to look into Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's something that I studied in college, and I found it to be the thing that really stuck with me the most out of everything I studied. This stuck with me the most because it really helped me understand where so many of my struggles were coming from in life. Because some of us are really born with with a deck that's stacked against us, as they say. And I want to give you all hope and tell you all that you can find a way to reshuffle that deck and to cope with your struggles and find fulfillment in your life anyway. That's all I have for now. Have a great day.